Welcome back. All right, so I want to talk a bit about something that's odd, and people are going to look at this board and go, "Pardon?" Right? Yeah. So I've talked about this on the channel before, but it's been a while, and I talked about this in a patrons/members video. Not that well. I think it was February of this year. I talked about it just for fun, and this is a just for fun video because why not? Talking about when I was a little kid. I created my own hockey league, and of course, being a little kid, I used the names of the real teams because of course I did. So what you're seeing on the board is, to the best of my recollection, and I'm looking for, there's a book in here somewhere where it goes over who won over who in the Stanley Cup final, and I believe this is how it worked out. You will notice a predominant Calgary Flames dynasty in the 80s. Ridiculous. Now, of course, I put myself into the league. And this year, there was a big sale on Cool Hockey, and I was like, all right, there's a big sale on Cool Hockey. This is a chance for me to do something nice for the little kid that was in love with hockey and get jerseys that are jersey foul with my name on them. But, I mean, I got jerseys from Michael Bublé with his name on the back, and as soon as I got those, I was like, well, if I'm going to wear jerseys with Bublé on the back, I might as well have my own name too. And then, Mike and I can hang out and have a jersey foul day together. So the way that this worked was, of course, I create all the players, which was a pain. By the time you reach the late 80s, I was doing a full draft. So I was doing a trade deadline. I was doing a full draft. I was doing every playoff. And the interesting thing is people would see me, sitting there with a binder at school and all this writing and everything, and I would write down who scored and from who and who did what with, and everything. I had everything all written down. And, I would get questions of, what are you doing? Oh, this is my hockey league. You're what? Yeah, no, I create the players, and then, I go through and I write down who beat who. So, for instance, Vancouver beats Montreal in 1980. I wasn't writing everything out in 1980 because I was small. I wasn't writing everything up. But by the time you get to the late 80s, yeah, I'm in high school. I'm writing everything down. So people would ask me, well, wait a minute. Isn't your favorite team Vancouver? And I'd be like, yeah. And they're not winning the Stanley Cup. Nope. And then I get asked, well, why? And my answer was always, they're not good enough. What? And I would, sometimes it was the goaltending. Sometimes it was defense. Sometimes the coaching, there was a problem. So I would have things changing. There was always a turmoil in Vancouver in the 80s because, again, now, they did win Stanley Cups. There were Stanley Cups, but considering I created the league in part because Vancouver wasn't winning. Vancouver was very good in the regular season. In the playoffs, it depended on the year. And because Calgary's winning all these playoffs, Vancouver's not getting out of round two. So very often it's Calgary-Vancouver. So the career for yours truly started out in Vancouver. Now, it depends on where you go with it. I actually had written down my stats at one point, and I put myself in Minnesota as a rookie, but I consider that to be a cheat because I didn't actually write anything down. It was just, I think my career started in 76, which is ridiculous. I was barely up and walking in 76, but, I was like, all right, well, I'll start in Minnesota. So that's not how I end up doing this for this video. And that's not where I went with the jerseys. So, my last name's on the back of this jersey. I've never worn it in a video because it would confuse people because there's a C on it because I would have been the captain on the team. So, and if you're going to pay to get a jersey with your name on the back, get the C on it. That's free. They don't charge extra for the captaincy. Put an A on it. Just why are you the alternate captain? No, I'm grade A. Grade A, dude. I'm a C. So there you go. So Vancouver, that first year over Montreal. Montreal was very good. Now, this is at a point where my dad and I would watch hockey together. My dad's favorite team was Montreal, so I was a Montreal fan as well. So what ends up happening is I end up trading myself to the Montreal Canadiens because I can do that. It's my league. I can trade myself wherever I want. So again, there's my name on the back, the number 13, which will surprise people who are going to say, well, wait, doesn't Shannon hate Montreal? I did, yeah, but at that time, I really liked Montreal. Montreal wins in 81 over Edmonton. I may have been on that team. There is definitely something to, so the Stanley Cup followed you, right? Yeah, because I'm his kid, and of course, I have visions of winning the Stanley Cup. And I think what ends up killing this is EA Sports. Thanks, EA. Because then I could just do a video game and go, oh, cool. I've taken players from this league and created them for EA Sports games, which has been a ton of fun because I can create stacked teams and have it where every team is completely stacked. But yeah, Montreal ends up winning in 81. I may or may not have been there. I only put an A on this jersey. It's odd to talk about it this way, but hey, it happened. And it's part of how I became the hockey guy. So I only have an A on this because I wasn't in Montreal long enough to justify calling myself the captain of Montreal, which at the time I absolutely would have. And me wanting to be historically accurate, that's weird. Yeah, I only put an A on the Montreal jersey. I wasn't in Montreal for very long before I traded myself back to Vancouver. So I've got the Flying V on. Now, I do not have a Flying V with my name on the back. The jersey that I have with my name on the back, of course, being the Heritage, it's because it's the one that was on sale on Cool Hockey. So it was, I think, $119, and then I think it was $40 for customization. Price for customization's gone up a little bit on Cool Hockey since then, but they're having a 25% off sale on any team that missed the playoffs. So I'm just throwing that out there, or any team that's been eliminated from the playoffs as well. So there may or may not be a skate jersey with my name on it coming. So anyways, I know how ridiculous it is, but again, this is how you end up with me standing here in front of a whiteboard and talking about hockey, because that was all I did. Like I would hurry up at school to get my homework done. In class, I did it right. I didn't just A, B, 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 B. No. If it was a quiz, if whatever's going, I would get it done quickly so that I could go back to writing a book, and I would bring my books to class, and I wrote them all by hand because computer, why didn't you have a laptop? Because it's the 90s, no laptops. Late 80s, no laptops. It's funny because even watching sci-fi movies, I watched Total Recall with Yvonne the other night, and just looking at these futuristic computers, and I'm like, man, that's like the size of the room. I had no idea. But again, that was standard. And so, yeah, I would just write everything down on paper, and it's a shame because there were a lot of books that I hand wrote. They're gone. They're gone. And it's too bad because there were a few of them that I would really like to type up on a computer now and publish, but they're gone. So recreating it from my memory, well, the memory gets a little shoddy as these Stanley Cup finals. You have no idea how much this is triggering me. So 82, I think it was Vancouver over the Islanders. I know the Islanders made it to the Stanley Cup final one of the years, and it was either 80 or 82. So in real life, the Islanders are beating Vancouver. My league, Vancouver's beating the Islanders, and this jersey's holding up a Stanley Cup, which might have been part of the problem. It might have been that I couldn't get past this jersey. But again, I wrote it that I was having issues with management, and I guess I would have been labeled as difficult. And so, yeah, the career path leads me in another direction. Calgary. So I stay with the Canadian teams. And this is where the Battle of Alberta is starting to get pretty hot in the real NHL. And I was rooting for Calgary because, again, I root for underdogs. It's part of how I get heartbroken so much watching hockey. Well, used to. I don't really anymore. Anyways, so that first year, Calgary beats Montreal. Then Calgary beats... And again, I was going over this in my mind, and I was looking at all the teams that were in the East at the time. I think it was New Jersey in 84 that Calgary beat. In 85, it was Pittsburgh, and in 89, it was Pittsburgh. The one that I remember really well is 86, 87, and 88, it was Hartford. Remember, I'm writing this down. The result can go whatever way I want it to. I kind of wanted Hartford to win in 88. I wanted the Whalers to win. It was like a Buffalo Bills kind of situation here, like, okay, and the worst part is, each series was 7 games. Each series went to full 7, and then Calgary won game 7. And so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Stanley Cups in a row for Calgary. Now, ironically, it ends in 89, and that's the year that Calgary actually wins, to this date, their only Stanley Cup, right? So, yeah. And then that dynasty, it was just... And again, remember, I'm there for most of this. I had myself traded out at the end of the 88 season after we beat Hartford the 3rd straight time. I feel bad for Hartford, but it shows that I was a fan of Hartford. I put together a good team, just could not get that Stanley Cup. And it's hard to explain. It's like when I'm writing books. When I'm writing books, some people sit down and they do a whole treatment. So they write out, here's what's going to happen in chapters 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't do that. I sit down and I just write. and then the story tells me what's going to happen. I used to have situations where I'd be writing a book, and I'd have to have a friend of mine in the book, and then I'd have to break it to them. I'm sorry, I killed you off last night. I'd be like, what? I it, yeah. No, not in hockey. Clearly not in hockey. It wasn't extreme hockey, but in one of the science fiction or thrillers I was writing, I'd be like, yeah, your character, I killed him off. Why? I don't know, but just the scene came up and it was just going, and next thing I know. So I've always written that way. It's and so with the hockey, it was kind of the same thing. And I would explain that to people, that these teams would evolve from one year to the next. I would watch and go, okay, Vancouver's had a really rough go of it. They're due for a breakthrough. Or, I had this Calgary dynasty in part takes place because I really liked dynasties. I like the idea of there being a team that everybody hates and wants to overthrow them as the greatest team. And this is, of course, at a time where the Oilers were a dynasty after the Islanders dynasty, which followed the Montreal dynasty. So I didn't know anything else as a hockey fan. And seeing 5 straight Stanley Cups as the record, I have a team get 7. The interesting thing is there's not another dynasty in the league after that's done. There are back-to-back champions, yes, but there is not another dynasty. So after all that time in Calgary, which is in the career I put together for myself, I think I was in Calgary the longest. You notice there's no C on this one. I forgot. But I remembered it on this one. So I've got my name on 2 different Flames jerseys because, again, they were on sale. And I was like, well, again, I was with the Flames for a long time. So, sure, why not? I know how it sounds. I hear myself say it. I'm quite aware of how it sounds. And here we are. So I end up back in Vancouver. So the interesting thing is, of course, 89, the last year that Calgary wins the Stanley Cup, I've traded myself out of Calgary, so I let them have one more Stanley Cup at the end of that. Now, again, where there's it's interesting because the Oilers, of course, won one Stanley Cup after Gretzky was gone in 1990. So, and again, the career I fashioned for myself, sure, I gave myself Gretzky like point totals. Who wouldn't? I'm rating myself like, yeah, I had 5 goals last night. Sure, why not? It's never going to happen in real life. Why not? So I ended up back in Vancouver. And Vancouver beats Boston in 1990. Pretty sure they beat the Rangers in 1991. So the Rangers were the first team that they kind of evolved before my eyes, where there was a player in Winnipeg who was having a hard time. I don't know how to explain this other than I would just be, writing out goals, this and this, and then I realized, oh, he hasn't had very much. So I traded him to the Rangers, and immediately I went, you know what? He would end up on a line with this guy and this guy. He's going to score a ton of points with those guys because the way I've been fashioning their careers, this is going to go really well. The New York Rangers had a season where they lost 8 games. 8. And they were far and above. And so again, people at high school be like, so this is your league. Yeah. Who's the number 1 team in the league? The Rangers. Are the Rangers your favorite team? No. Why are the Rangers number 1? Well, because they've put together a really good team. But you put that team together. Yep. So why didn't you just give Vancouver? If you're a Canuck fan, why don't they just win the cup every year? And I'm like, well, that wouldn't be fair. And there you are. So, I mean, the Canucks won 4 Stanley Cups at that point, and that's all they won. Out of 20 years, they won 4. And I understand. People are going to say, well, that's a lot. I was writing it. They could have won as many as I wanted them to, and they don't. So we're into a point now where I have 3 teams I cheer for: Vancouver, Boston, and Dallas. So the return to Vancouver goes pretty well, but again, management issues with Vancouver, arguments back and forth. And honestly, personally, I thought, I've done the Vancouver thing already. It'd be kind of fun to go somewhere else. So you know how when you're playing EA Sports games and you're general manager and you get a team to a Stanley Cup and you say, you know what, I've got this team to a Stanley Cup, and then your contract's up and you move to another franchise. Yeah, I was doing that in the 90s on paper, where I would say, all right, I've done all I can do. This team's really, really good. I think I'm going to move on. And so I did. So I sent myself to Boston. Now, at the time, this is 92, so I've graduated high school. And so the way I'm seeing it is, I'm an adult. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this. So I started scaling back how many points and how many goals I had. I started scaling back how many games I played even. I would have like, okay, so I didn't play this game because I tracked how many games everybody played too, because of course I did. And so I started scaling it back. So by the time that, and of course I won the Stanley Cup in Boston. Who wouldn't? But yeah, so it's just ridiculous. By the time that the 93 season's done, I'm saying, okay, that's where I retire. My hockey player character, my retirement is 93. I've had the character going since 79 to 93. I've set all the records that I can in this league. And so I'm going to retire, and that's that. So Boston beats Vancouver in 93. There was no violence because it didn't happen in real life. 94, St. Louis beats the Rangers. So the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup in the league I created in 94. And that was an underdog story. So the New York Rangers, about 70 wins again. Just ridiculous win numbers. And they steamroll to the Stanley Cup final in 94. Steamroll. I mean, I know the Rangers really won the Stanley Cup in 94 in real life, but in my league, they just steamroll. So St. Louis, heavy underdogs. They beat them with goaltending. The goaltender for St. Louis stands on his head, shutouts, all that fun stuff, and ends up knocking off the New York Rangers in the 94 final. 95, the New York Rangers knock off the LA Kings. But I start getting the itch. Maybe it's time to come back and come out of retirement, but I can't do it in Boston. Who would need me? Dallas. So what happens is I say, you know what? So this is right after the Minnesota North Stars have moved to Dallas. Now, as I said at the start of this, there are times where, I looked at my career as being from Minnesota through to Dallas. Again, for this video, I'm saying Vancouver through to Dallas because to me, Minnesota's a cheat. I never actually sat down with a piece of paper, wrote everything all out, and did all the work that I did with these seasons. But I decided I decided not only player, but coach. So the way that I worked it was, I remember that first year, I put myself into 55 out of 84 games. I had an 84 game schedule. Because at this point, I was up to, it ended up being 40 teams. It ended up being a 40 team league. And so this is why when I talk about 40 team leagues with the NHL and I talk about scheduling, well, I did it. And it's tricky, but I did it. And I found a matrix that allowed me to make the schedule as fair as possible, make it really easy for me to plot everything out. But remember, I didn't have to worry about which buildings were available on which dates. I didn't have to worry about NBA. I didn't have to worry about concerts. I didn't have to worry about any of that. I could just put them whatever dates wherever I wanted. So it was a little bit easier for me than it is in the reality of it. But yeah, Dallas eventually does win that Stanley Cup in 97 over the Rangers. 96, the Rangers get their revenge on St. Louis. 95, the Rangers beat LA. The LA Kings were becoming quite the team as well. And so yeah, Dallas, the funny thing is, the first Stanley Cup I had myself on the team, I retired again just to go full-time coach. And that second Stanley Cup, there was no sign of me on the team. But again, it's another jersey with my name on the back because I decided when this sale was on a Cool Hockey, okay, I think it'd be great. And again, for meetups. So we haven't had meetups. We did the move, of course, at the end of April. My wife just had another surgery this week. So that's why I haven't even started talking about meetups and all that because while she's going through her recovery, we don't have any plan at this point. We don't know how long that's going to take. And so while she's going through all that recovery, I can't really plan anything out. But I had these jerseys thinking meetups, which I had expected would already have been started by the middle of May. But they haven't. So rather than debuting them at meetups, having people go, wait a minute, why? And then I do this video, I'm doing it now before the meetups. But that's essentially what the plan is to go out there and, and then I can say during the street hockey game, I'm captain, I say. So it's fine. But yeah, honestly, 99 it ends. Rangers beating Dallas. I'm pretty sure that's what the Stanley Cup final was the last year. I ended up with a full-time girlfriend. I had kids, and then I got EA Sports games, and I tried. And the last year that I tried, I actually said, I'm going to be general manager of the LA Kings. Because the Kings, throughout this, you see one Stanley Cup final here in 95. Pretty good team, but not over the top. And I thought, I want to see if I can turn the Kings around. And again, it was that idea of, and it's the same thing that you do when you play the EA Sports games, where you go, I want a challenge. And I've done it as GM, where I've said, okay, I've run this team pretty well. Okay, my contract's up. Who's offering me 4 years? Oh, 4 years with Buffalo. Sure, I'll go through and see if I can turn them around. So it's fun. And again, this is my be a GM mode with myself as a player before be a GM mode was even a thing. And it was honestly, it was a lot of fun. There were times that, I was dealing with depression. I was dealing with all kinds of things as a teenager. And sometimes this was just that daily routine, that thing that I had that was mine. And on some level, this channel has become the surrogate for the replacement of that. And so that's part of the reason why I have no problem with doing videos every day, doing nice long-winded videos like this one too, where I talk about my insanity. Not complete insanity. I knew it wasn't really happening, but it was a lot of fun. And I've had people asking me at times, they'll come across videos about this and say, are you ever going to restart it? I don't know how I would restart it. I don't. Because honestly, it would kind of have to be the way I did it before. I know there's it's Franchise Hockey Manager, right? FHM. And I have it. I haven't used it. And that's fun. And it's a great idea, right? And, I like creating players on the EA Sports games. I love going in and editing players too. I just don't have the time. Like, for instance, when we moved, I didn't bring the PS4 into my room. It's now in the rec room. Everybody can use it. Because I haven't turned on the PS4 for myself since September. I think the last time I turned it on for myself to actually play a game was last September. So I just don't have the time for dedicating to it that I'd like to. I think if I was going to dive into that, I would want to have a nice long block of time that I'm going to use for that. And I haven't had that. But there you go. A window into what is essentially a league that existed for about 20 years. And as I said, there were other years, but it kind of felt like a cheat because I wasn't necessarily writing everything down once 99 comes and goes. That was the end of it. I think I had a Stanley. I think Dallas won it in 2000, but again, I wasn't writing everything in 2000 the way I had before that, and so I'll round it out with 99 because that doesn't feel like a cheat. I want to say something in conclusion too that is honest. I'm going to say honest. When I was getting jerseys with my name on the back, on some level it bothered me that they weren't accurate to what I would have worn if I had played. So, like for Calgary, it had to be the 80s one, right? And for Boston, it should be the one that like the Cam Neely era, right? For Dallas, it shouldn't be this. It should be the Star. But again, I had to go with what I had, and I had access to this, so I went with this, and it's fun. It honestly, it's a lot of fun. And there's times where I'm watching hockey games, and I will put on one of the jerseys with my name on the back while I'm watching a game, and then I do the review, and of course I got to change because I haven't worn any of these in a video again until now. And yeah, I think I'm freed up now that I can wear them in a video. But yeah, it's entertaining to me too. So there you go. But let me know your thoughts. If you had your own hockey league, talk about it. Sure, why not? And again, I think that it's something that I really think that if you get into EA and you really get into the like, for instance, people complain about all the ratings on EA. I never cared about the ratings on EA. I would just go into each game and just edit all the players. Be like, all right, I'll just go in and edit all this. And sometimes I would edit a guy way up. I might edit him way down, or it might be just a couple of points where I say, oh, this guy's an 81. He should be an 83 because he should be on that line. And I know the game's automatically going to drop him because of what his rating is. So, yeah, there you go. You guys are all caught up in the craziness that is Vancouver, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Vancouver, Boston, retirement, and then Dallas. So I just don't have jerseys for every single Vancouver iteration. Although, as I said, there's a skate jersey that's gonna have my name on the back because again, the Heritage one is nice, but it just doesn't feel. Anyway, it's one of those things. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way through this, greatly appreciate it. I just figured it's a Saturday. Why not? Have a nice, casual, long-winded video discussing my own insanity. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means a ton. I will talk to you again soon. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through and you're trying to figure out what you just watched. I will talk to you again soon.